to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Southfield regular meeting of the Planning Commission, July 19th, 2023. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a roll call, please.
Yeah.
Yes, Chair. Bernuti,
Present.
Goodwin Dye, Griffiths,
Here.
Willis, Gruber,
Here.
Martin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Through the chair, I move for the approval of the agenda dated this date, July 19, 2023.
I second it.
Okay, we've got a favorable motion by Commissioner Willis, supported by Commissioner Bernuti. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Okay. Do we have any announcements or communications?
None at this time.
All right. First item, the public hearing, PCZR 23-0001.
All right, I'll go through a short summary of this. This is a project where it's a vacant property with some vegetation on it. It's being looked for a conditional rezoning for the southern half of the property from OS to B1, and then development of a 5-unit small commercial center anchored by a pharmacy urgent care in the larger space. This is on Losser, a bit south of 10 Mile. Property's about, the building itself is a little shy of 10,000 square feet. It's just an aerial photo of the site showing the surrounding land uses. There's residential to the east along Lois Lane, and then some commercial to the north and to the south. Just some photos of the site, one from the parking lot to the north, one from across Losser, and one looking kind of from Lois Lane across the property toward the wooded vegetated area that's at the back of the property. Current zoning, B1 on the north, that was a conditional rezoning granted in 2016. This is OS, Office Services, the southern portion that's looking to be rezoned to B1 with with the same conditions effectively as the northern parcel, so they can be combined for this use. They are land use plan for local mixed use, which is consistent with the requested zonings. This is just the proposed site plan. We've got parking on the south and west side of the building. Loading zone kind of tucked in the back there, a little bit of parking on the east side facing in toward the building, and then the pharmacy drive-through on the north side. This is just the building here. The larger unit to the left there is the pharmacy urgent care. The pharmacy takes a small portion. It's mostly the urgent care. The other 4 spaces are for potential tenants. A landscape plan, vegetation going along the front there. You get trees, and there's going to be a line of shrubs there in the most recent revised plans. And then trees along the south, and then some additional trees along the eastern border facing the conservation area for the property, buffering the property from the homes to the east along Lois Lane. Elevation, 3D rendering, multi-tenant building, fairly standard. Regular color elevations for the building. These are the actual conditions that they're proposing, and I thought I added this slide from last time just so we have these be explicit on the record. The conditions are the use of the property, the first 6 are exclusions, uses that cannot happen. So use of property as a pawn shop is prohibited. Use of the property for a retail business, marketing or selling firearms, weapons, ammunition, bullets, or firearm accessories is prohibited. Use of the property for retail sale of sexually oriented novelties and sexually oriented movies, books, any type of sexually oriented media or explicit magazines is prohibited. Use of the property for a dining establishment greater than 2,000 square feet is prohibited to limit the intensity. The use of the property for the sale or marketing of marijuana or any type of marijuana product or paraphernalia is prohibited. That we know drive-through windows for a restaurant or drive-through window for a pharmacy shall be permitted. And then the conservation easement buffer at the rear of the property will be 76 feet along the eastern border, as shown on the plans. So those are the conditions that are being offered. That's why this is a conditional rezoning and not just a straight rezoning. There we go. just a color, this is a color version of the landscape plan and the site plan. And at this point, the petitioner is here. If we would invite them forward to speak, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, can a petitioner please approach, and if you have anything to add, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, I'm Carol Thurber with Noack and Prouse Engineers. Our address is 48680 Van Dyke, Shelby Township.
Thank you.
A few things to add is, based on the comments that we received that were very well taken last week, we did make a few revisions to the plan, minor revisions. It was discussed to shift the easternmost plantings about 18 feet to the east to allow for a future land bank parking if it should be needed. So those plantings have been shifted, so they won't have to be dug up some future time if it were ever needed. Along the western parking area, there is a hedgerow as required by ordinance. And
Sorry, I don't think I got the updated ones in here. They're in your packet, though.
they should be in your packet. And then we made the change to the conditional zoning proposal to eliminate the word medical for the marijuana and just make for the sale or use of any marijuana.
Okay. Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. I'd like to open up the public hearing at this time. If anyone from the public wishes to come forward and speak on this project, please approach. Seeing no public coming forward, I'll close the public hearing. Open up to the commission for comments, questions. Commissioner Martin.
Two questions. One, on the diagram, you have 5 buildings across the front and only 4 handicap spaces show. Is that correct, or am I missing something because of the planning at the lower left corner?
The handicap spaces are based on the total number of spaces that you have on your site. So if you have 100 spaces, then you have 2 required with 1 van accessible. So we actually exceed the requirements for Americans with Disabilities Act.
The buildings, I understand the large portion at the north end of the building. The other 4 sections, pretty much by diagram, they look like they're all rectangles. Why are they different sizes?
I believe it was for, and the architect was unable to attend tonight because he's out of town. It was more just for the wall sizes and the fire ratings and things like that, so he had to shift some walls around. And they're conceptual lines too.
Well, I understand, you know, a firewall between sections, but it's just, you would think that they'd all be the same size rectangles, that's all.
And very well, when he does get to the final building plans, they may even out more.
And the rear entrances, you have 5 buildings across the front and 4 entrances at the rear. Is one of the entrances shared? Because they have, on the diagram, they have so that the building 2 and 3 have entrances, rear exits, but building 4 and 5 only have 1 exit at the rear.
I believe on the rear elevation, I believe he corrected that on the elevations, on the 4 elevations, the 4-sided elevation. Oh, he still shows 3.
Here.
Oh, okay.
I believe it'll certainly
Yeah,
be
we
an
got
egress
it.
issue when he gets to building submittal anyway.
Yeah.
Building permit.
Okay, it's on there, yeah.
Yep, and it's over here too.
And at the front of the building, you have a 2-way driveway at the front of the building, on the south side of the building, and at the rear of the building. You have a drive-through at the top that's gonna make that a 1-way drive.
Correct.
I believe you should have something to indicate at the northwest end of the building that it's one way, do not enter.
Add some
so that-
signage, of course.
Just to ensure that people know not to come in that way. But other than that, I have no questions and no qualms. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Gruber.
Yeah, I just have a curiosity question. Why are you doing a drive-up window for the pharmacy if you said in the previous meeting that you only expect patients to use that pharmacy? Why isn't it accessible inside?
I believe that it is intended mostly for people that are using the urgent care, but it will be open to the public.
Oh, it will? 'Cause-
Yes.
okay, I thought last week they said it wouldn't be. Okay, great. Thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Willis.
Thank you. I think I'm going to express the same concern I did last week, and I'm concerned with the fact that there's a high school across the street, and this is going to be rezoned to neighborhood business. But I don't see anything in place that would somehow, let me take a side step. When my son was in school, they described one kid by himself as having a whole brain, 2 kids having 2 half brains, and 3 kids having no brains at
I
all.
have teenagers.
Okay. And my fear is you're going to have a lot of kids across the street. And I don't know what prevents them from attempting to cross the street to a neighborhood business. And I'm extremely concerned about the safety. I've been in Southfield long enough to know that there's been 2 horrendous incidences right in that area. And so I can't get past it. Can you tell me why the kids across the street would be safe?
I did actually look into that pretty extensively, looking at the overall area there. The area directly across the street is a baseball field and it's fenced in. And then just south of that are tennis courts that are also fenced in. The driveway is significantly south, and there's not even a crossing at that driveway. The sidewalk comes out of that driveway and it only extends north. So they would actually have to cut through the baseball field, climb the fence, and then jaywalk in order to cross to get to this business. I think that the more likely event would be they would go all the way to the corner to the signalized intersection like they should.
Okay. I hear you. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Commissioner Goodwin-Dye. Commissioner Bernuti.
In reference to the pharmacy, you indicated last week that it would be available not just for the residents, but for anyone within a 2-mile radius. Is that the same?
Marketing-wise, you think of 2-mile radius, yes.
That's all for now.
That's all.
Second.
I appreciate the fact of shifting the landscaping and planning for the land banking. I think it's just in your client's best interest to have the most flexibility for their building, but also just to keep it, let the water flow for now until you ever need it someday. And it's always a challenge with a real estate development of who your tenants are or who they will be, and you can't get a tenant until you build a building, and it's the chicken or the egg scenario. So, I mean, this looks anchored by a space, and at least we know what that use is, and the rest, we know some things that can't be there. So I think that's, the intensity of this center is going to be on the lower end of retail developments, which is, I think, good from a planning point of view. I think it's a nice project, and this particular piece of property, now you've added to double the size of the property that got originally rezoned. It was, listed as being undesirable for quite a few years, and it wasn't residential, it wasn't retail. Now it makes sense with the size and the shape that the current site is. It was too skinny before, and now you've doubled the size. So everything works out a lot better with just a few years time in between. So I think it's a good project, and I'm in favor of it. Any final comments, Commission?
None.
Nope. Do we have a planner's recommendation?
We do. Script here. All right. For the, we have both the conditional rezoning and the site, but I'll do the conditional rezoning first.
Okay.
we just had a public hearing. The Planning Department recommends favorable consideration of PCZR 23-0001 to conditionally rezone 0.97 acres of land from OS Office Service to B1 Neighborhood Business with a conditional rezoning agreement and retaining 76 by 100 conservation easement on the east side of the lot for the following reasons. One, the Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan indicates local mixed use for this property. The request to rezone from OS Office Service to B1 Neighborhood Business with a conditional rezoning agreement would meet the master plan's goals, policies, and future land use map by allowing for limited commercial uses that will not diminish the property available for local mixed uses and would include the uses that would serve nearby residents, employees, and visitors to other nearby uses. Two, the proposed conditional rezoning to B1 Neighborhood Business would allow for the development of the property with new land uses that would be compatible with the abutting existing developments while prohibiting other uses that could be detrimental to the area or cause an increase in traffic congestion. Three, the proposed conditional rezoning would not have adverse effects upon the adjoining zonings or land uses. Four conditions, recommended conditions, recording of proposed conservation easement covering the rear, this would actually be 76 foot by 200 for the entire site, as shown on the site plans prepared by Noakin for House, sheet C2 and C3, and the conditional rezoning agreement subject to review and approval by the city attorney.
Okay. Thank you. So I've done what I typically do. I jumped ahead and put site plan comments in with the conditional land use. So now we're looking for a motion on just the conditional rezoning. And then after that, we have the site plan review if there's any additional comments from the commission. Do we have a motion on PCZR 230001?
To the chair.
Anybody?
I have no comments on the plan. I recommend favorable approval of PCZR 23-0001.
Second.
Okay. We have a favorable recommendation by Commissioner Martin and a second by Commissioner Bernuti. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, we have 6 for and 1 against. Next item, same project. 5 yes and 1 against. Same project, the site plan review, PSP 23-0011. Any additional comments from the commission?
No.
Seeing none, can we have the planner's recommendation on the site plan portion?
Yes, Chair. The Planning Department recommends favorable recommendation of the site plan review requested by Rabbi Beder, if I'm saying it right, on behalf of the owner, Lasher and 10 Mile LLC, to construct a 9,860 square foot gross floor area multi-tenant commercial center on vacant property located on the east side of Lasser Road, south of 10 Mile. Sidwell parcels 2427-101-003 and 2427-101-004, City of Southfield, Oakland County, State of Michigan, for the following reasons and conditions. 1, all development features are located as to minimize the possibility of any adverse impacts on adjacent properties and so as to relate properly to pedestrian and vehicular traffic safety. 2, the site plan does show that access is provided only to a major or secondary thoroughfare or freeway service drive, and that a proper relationship exists between the major or secondary thoroughfare and the proposed service roads, driveways, and parking areas in order to encourage pedestrian and vehicular traffic safety. 3, the approval is based on the documents, facts, representations, and stipulations submitted with the application and placed on the record during the public hearing by the petitioner or their representatives. And 4, we have a number of conditions. A, subject to the conditions of conditional rezoning PCZR 23001, as may be approved by City Council. B, continuous compliance with all applicable ordinances, codes, laws, and statutes. The petitioner must perform all work under plans, permits, and final inspections approved by the City of Southfield. C, the site shall be developed in accordance with site plans with the submitted site plan, sheets C2, C3, dated 7/14/23, prepared by NF Engineers. D, the buildings shall be developed in accordance with elevations, sheets A103, A104, dates 12/14/22, prepared by Scope Data LLC. E, landscape and irrigation shall be developed consistent with the submitted landscape plan, sheet L1, dated 7/13/23, revised as needed to meet the full requirements of the landscape ordinances. Final approval to be by the planning department. F, site lighting shall be developed in accordance with the site lighting photometric plans, sheets SP-E1, dated 5/25/23. G, petitioner is to execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscaped and parking areas on the site and in the right-of-way, which includes maintenance of the stormwater detention system. H, the petitioner is to implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. I, approval of the site plan and/or building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval of signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed signs. J, bike racks shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, subsection 12. K, approval of this site plan and/or building elevations represented herein. Sorry, that's a repetition of the sign issue. So K is not necessary. I just duplicated that one accidentally. Basically, you have to get a separate sign permit. That's what they will say. And that is all we have.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion on PSP 230011, which is the site plan for this project. Commissioner Martin.
To the chair, question. I didn't see art requirement in here. Is there an art requirement for this?
The estimated budget was below the $1 million threshold
Thank you.
to require the art. Pass my spot here.
Motion to approve PSP 23-0011.
Okay, we've got a favorable motion by Commissioner Martin, supported by Commissioner Goodwin Dye. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, we have 5 yes and 1 against. Motion passes to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck to you.
Next item is another public hearing. This is PSLU 23-0009.
I'll go through my summary now if it, through the chair. Well, this is a special use request for a group childcare home, PSLU 23-009, on Pierce Street, at the corner of Pierce and Stratford, 24346 Pierce. It is zoned R3 residential. Special use request to have a group daycare home, maximum 12 children, licensed by the state within an existing home. Just some site aerials here. You can see it on the home on the corner there. Pierce on the left, Stratford is above on the north side. Front elevation of the property. Just the zoning R3 residential, national land use plan, single family, consistent. Floor plans, as explained by the applicant, the daycare facility will primarily occur on the main floor, which is the plan to your left there. But we do ask for complete floor plans of the buildings when we review these. As you can see, it does meet the minimum floor areas required to meet the ordinance for this. That was verified. Second floor is bedrooms. There is another bathroom up there, but that is not meant to be used normally as part of the daycare. Basement, once again, just included for completeness, but not intended to be used as part of the daycare. And I believe the petitioner is present. If you'd like to come forward.
Please state your name and address again for the record, and anything you'd like to add about your project.
Sure. My name is Joseph Nadif, and we live at this address, 24346 Pierce.
And I'm Deborah Nadiv. Also, we're the homeowners at 24346 Pierce Street.
So following last week's hearing, you left us with a bunch of different suggestions that we took home, and we tried to implement them as best as possible. So of the items that came up last week, I think one of the primary ones that came up was traffic and parking and the impact that it may have on the neighborhood. So we did our own research and tried to calculate the frontage in front of our house as well as the side. So it comes out that there are approximately 3 parking spaces in front of the house and 4 to the side along Stratford. Coupled with the fact that we have 2 spaces in the driveway, That should allow for a total of 9 parking spots in the morning, should there be a convergence on the facility. Considering that our target marketing, our target audience is within a half a mile, many of the people that are attending are going to be walkers. Most of the people are going to be from the local neighborhood. We have several neighbors that are here also that can attest to that. 2 of the people that are here also are actually adjacent neighbors to my property, and they are willing and agreeable to allow the frontage of their house to be used for parking as well. Several of the other questions that came up was as far as use of the property outdoors, including the park, the backyard. Looking back at the licensing handbook, it was very clear that we don't need to use the park as a required use. We have enough space in the backyard, and therefore we'll only use the park sparingly. According to the licensing handbook from the state, they encourage us to use the parks and all the resources that we have available to us. It's better for the children to be able to get out of the house. So I know one of the questions that came up last week is about the competence of my wife as far as crossing the street. That's something that the state has regulations about. They require trainings, health and safety, first aid and CPR, many other items, as well as, early education, early childhood training. Coupling my wife's experience, I don't view that as being a major concern, but we're able to take questions about that when necessary. I know a question came up last week regarding bathroom facilities. We also reviewed through the code book and the technical licensing guide, which I'm assuming everybody here received the written answers that I gave to the questions. So consulting the written licensing guides, we are allowed to bring the children upstairs. There's nothing against the rule specifically about that, although obviously we will have gates and protections so that the children can't just wander off unsupervised to different floors of the house. But if there would be a backup, so to speak, within the bathroom, because there's an assistant, so one can maintain the children downstairs while the assistant or my wife would bring the child who needs the bathroom upstairs. So I believe that addressed the issues that were on the table from last week, but if there are any other questions, we're happy to field them as they come.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so I'd like to open up the public hearing at this time. If you could remain close, and you'll get another chance to answer anything. If anyone would like to speak on this project or ask questions, could you please approach the podium at this time? Okay. Please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, my name is Devorah Gold. I'm actually a licensed group home provider in Oak Park. And it's something that with privilege that I have been living in Oak Park. See, being that I'm a provider, I am aware of the desperate need.
Just need your address too.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
15110 Dartmouth Street in Oak Park.
Thank you. In Oak Park.
Yeah, so there, because of my licensed daycare, I'm aware of a statewide crisis in a daycare shortage. And definitely in our Jewish community, that is an issue. And being able to send children locally in a warm home, a tough friend that you know, where you feel comfortable leaving your child so you could go to work is a very big asset, I would feel, to the Southfield community, as I have been an asset to the Oak Park community. And the licensing department is great. They have a lot of rules and regulations, and they know what they're doing, and this is the business that they're trained in, guiding you and helping you and checking you and making sure that you are safe and taking good care of the children. So I'm just here to help my friends and to promote that having home daycares in Southfield would be a really big asset to your city.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are any additional public comments, please approach. Same rules, name and address for the record, and then you get 3 minutes too.
My name is Israel Indich. My address is
Can't hear you.
160. Excuse me, use the microphone.
The microphone's a little low, can you, there you go.
My name is Israel Indich. My address is 16435 Stratford Drive. I'm actually next door neighbors with Mr. and Mrs. Nadiv. And I just wanted to add that, first of all, I know as a neighbor, I see that I would trust them with my children. I would be very happy for them to have a daycare. And I personally have children that, as presently, I'm bringing to Oak Park because I don't have a daycare to send them in my neighborhood. It would be something, an asset I'd be very happy to have close by, that I could, and entrust my children in their care. And that's
Which is your house? Which direction?
on Stratford. Which,
Okay, so
would
you'd be to the right of the image, I'm guessing, to the east?
Don't know if I have one.
Okay.
See if I get a better
it's behind the house.
Yeah,
That picture.
I guess I need to have a more zoomed out aerial on here. Yeah, that one's a little better, but yeah, it'd be further to the east.
Further
of the traffic.
off the
Can you
right side. Okay.
recognize the movie house?
Thank you very much.
I couldn't.
There.
Any additional public comment? All right.
Hi, Srolmir Crumbine, and I live at 16397 Hardin Circle. That's actually the next house over. And I'm really the second the same. We recently moved in, and I am most of the day. My wife is also working, and it's really something that's very important to us. A daycare center for our children that would be nearby, and it would be a tremendous asset to the community. And I've seen the natives close up and really trust them, and think it would be a real valuable asset. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. There any additional public comments? All right.
Hi, my name is Ezra Rakowski. I live on 24318 Pierce Street, which is 2 houses down on Pierce Street from the Nadivs. And in terms of the traffic in the morning, I don't see that as an issue at all, because some people maybe were thinking that there might be traffic being caused by all the parents dropping off their children. Actually, what happens is it gets staggered at different times. Parents are not really dropping off at the same time, so I don't find any buildup of traffic on the street. In terms of having a daycare in the neighborhood, it would be a major asset to the neighborhood, because we definitely have had a very difficult time finding daycares at this time. Ever since COVID, a lot of daycares closed down, and we're having a very real trouble finding any daycares for our children, and it definitely would be a big asset for us. They are very trustworthy people. We know them very well, and from everything we could tell, the kids are being taken care of very, very well. So it would be very helpful for such a thing to get started in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
My name is Chana Steinmetz. I live at 25860 Southwood Drive. I work as a preschool director of a child care center. As such, I am very aware of the dearth of child care spaces. Our governor has made a huge push to try and open up more spaces, providing all kinds of funding so that this can happen. There is just such a crying need in our community for these spaces, and I just commend Rabbi and Mrs. Nadiv, who I know also as parents, and as parents in my school, and also as friends and neighbors, for making this push to provide those desperately needed slots in our community, and the fact that they're willing to do it here in Southfield. I cannot begin to tell you the need. I mean, I'm sure you're aware, but on my end, I get the emails from the governor's office and from the licensing childcare, and there's just such a need. And they're willing to step up and fill that need and go to great lengths and quite a bit of inconvenience in fixing things up in the house. I've worked with licensing now for many years, and they're very careful. They have a lot of demands, and they're willing to work with all of them and do all the trainings and all the safety things to make sure that the children in their care will be safe. And this will allow parents to go to work. Parents who are sitting at, aren't able to because they can't find slots. So I just think they really should be commended, and I think that the city of Southfield should want to support opening up more slots here in Southfield for our Southfield parents so that more Southfield residents can go to work.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm new to this process, so bear with me if I...
Step one, name and address for our records. And then
Okay,
you can
my name
proceed.
is Joe Farmer, 16951 New Jersey Street, which is just around the corner from this proposed daycare center. And I missed the beginning. I just had a couple of questions as to, is there a limit to the number of children and ages that are going to be eligible to participate in this facility?
Yeah, it's 12 is the maximum allowed by the state, and the ages we can bring up in a few minutes when we ask them to return.
Okay, because I just came to get information since it's, like I say, right around the corner from me. And I know that there are a lot of children in that neighborhood, but there are also a lot of animals. I see deers running around, and they're not just running around in the evening. They're very prevalent in the neighborhood during the daytime as well. And I kind of wonder about the safety of the kids, because I do see them behind those houses and very frequently running up and down the street now, and how that would impact what their safety. Those are really my questions.
We'll work on answer your second question when we invite them back up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I guess maybe we should start with that. Can you restate the number of children and then the ages you intend? And then is there a licensing restriction on the maximum age, I think would be the...
Absolutely. These are the types of questions that actually I greatly appreciate the feedback from the neighbors. So it's a state licensing requirement that we may not have more than 12 children in the house. That is a state mandated requirement, and they will shut us down if they inspect us and find that there are more children in the house. As far as ages, there's no mandated requirement. The license will allow us to take any children from birth until age 17. But the intended use of this program is supposed to be for children between ages 2 and 4. Perhaps a little bit more focus is between ages 2.5 to 3.5 if you really want to drill it down, but that's not so necessary. The hours of the child care are supposed to be from 8:45 till about 2 o'clock. Like we said, the times are not rigid. So parents can drop off at any time after 8:45 and pick up at any time before 2 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I can address the second question as well.
Okay.
About animals. It's an interesting concern. We actually find the wildlife. Our house overlooks the park, if you look at the picture that's actually up on the screen now. And that's part of what we actually enjoy about our property. I'm getting a little off topic now, but the beauty of our property is that when you sit in our dining room, the thing that we see is not other houses, we actually see the park. So we almost call ourselves as like, not the owners of the park, because the city owns the park, but we're like the park watchmen. So part of the beauty of watching the fall and the changes of the seasons is that we actually get to watch the wildlife. So we actually watch the deer, we watch family grow up there, we watch the deer actually playing with each other. And of course, we understand that they're a hazard. But on the other hand, it also is an asset to the daycare, because it's one of the things that my wife will actually take them to the window and say, look at the deer, look at the family. Look at how even the deer will sometimes play in the park. It's somewhat cute, and it's also educational. It just shows the children almost natural wildlife, even though they're growing up in an urban area.
Can I just put in, though, that for my own children, whenever we've come to the park, the deer are afraid of humans. They really will. When they see children approaching or people approaching, they will right away walk to the side, back into the forest. They don't want to be in the park when there are other people at the park.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Martin.
I understand that you are looking at kids in the 2 to 4 year old age range.
Yeah.
However, as you just pointed out, that for the 12 kids in the group home setting, that the ages actually go from birth to age 17. So with the information that you submitted, you stated that you have 7 kids. Does that mean that you can only have 5 children from the neighborhood in your care?
So according to state requirements, it's a limitation of 12 above the children that live in your house. But in order to address the follow-up... Sorry, it's unrelated children. So children that live in the house don't count towards the count of 12.
Okay, that's...
Now, I'll preempt the follow-up question, is that how in the world are you going to manage when you have your 7 children plus another 12? Which is a legitimate question. Nobody's expecting us to watch 19 children. That doesn't happen. Our program is following the school schedule. So when our children are in school and the house is empty, then we're going to have the daycare open. When our children are home from school, we can't have the daycare open, not even because of a licensing issue, it's just impossible. It's too many people to manage. So we're certainly not looking to bite off more than we can chew.
Actually, my second part to the question was, do you have children in the 2 to 4 age range that would be in the house? And I assume, based on what you're saying, that your children are not, because they'd be in school and they've got to be 4 or 5 to be in school or older, so.
Correct. We do have one infant. We do have one infant that would be in the house, or she would be turning 1 this year. So she doesn't count towards that requirement, but she's also easy to take care of. She's little.
It's still, you know, you have 2 people taking care of the children, so that can be a time where you only have 1.
Can I project something? My baby is used to, she has 6 older siblings. She is used to having children around, and she enjoys the entertainment. She does take a very steady nap, which will be for some of the morning hours. And, you know, with one of us, if she needs to be held, so either I or the assistant can hold her while we're taking care of the other children. It's something, one of the benefits that comes from having a larger family is that you could figure out how to multitask and be able to, you know, the baby who doesn't need as much care, she can just come along for the ride while you're doing whatever responsibilities.
Commissioner Martin, any other question? Commissioner Gruber? Were you finished?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner Gruber.
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Willis.
Very quick. I believe you said that you will not be serving meals to the children? Am I correct with that statement? Okay, so they will be at your home, say, 8 o'clock in the morning till 2, and you won't serve meals, or how does that work?
So what I'm planning to do is to serve them 2 snacks. A morning snack, you know, let's say around 10 o'clock or so, and then a snack at dismissal when they go home. They're going to bring their own lunch and their own water bottle. That's what my plan is.
Okay. You also seem to be very certain about the age 2 to 4. I'm just curious, why those ages? Why the certainty that you would have a group age 2 to 4, not 1 to 6, or, you know, just seem to be an age that you talk about frequently?
I'm planning to run it as somewhat as an educational classroom, and to have children that are such different age levels is very hard to pinpoint the academic aspect. If I want to do a story time or circle time or teach certain concepts, do certain skills with them, it's very hard when the children are not up to the same level developmentally.
Okay.
So that's why I would like everyone to be within the same year or so.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Goodwin, aye.
The daycare, is it available to everyone that may need daycare?
Yeah. We are Jewish, and it is going to be a daycare somewhat of faith. I am going to base different projects off of different Jewish holidays and different concepts. So I don't assume that, you know, people who are not Jewish would be so much looking for that, but I'm happy to take any neighbors or anyone who would like to send, you know, as long as they're the right age for what I'm looking for. That's fine.
Commissioner Bernini.
Yes, under the safety issue, you indicated that there were several minor corrections that need to be made as far as the state and that. Did you make those corrections, and what are they?
So we're currently working with the Southfield City's Building Department, Fire Department. So we had all of the inspectors come out to take a look at the house. The initial time when they came out, they made relatively minor corrections that we corrected. We requested a reinspection, and they came back out and they cited a few other items. Some of them were just either incorrect or they were enforcing the wrong book. And what I mean by that is that there's residential building code, and there's also the licensing manual for childcare for the state. So the state has a whole division that's dedicated to enforcing that. So I clarified this with Mr. Woodward, that it's a little bit of an overreach of the building department that they tried getting into that issue. That's not their issue. The state will come out and take care of that. The only issue that's still outstanding and pending is that we need a landing at our back door. In order to have a daycare, you need to have 2 egresses from the house. So our front door is compliant, We have a sliding door in the back of the house that only has 3 steps, and by residential building code, you need a 3-foot landing. So we have somebody coming out with a precast concrete block with a railing to put that out. I don't know if you deal with contractors lately, but they're very backed up, and it's like just phone call after phone call. But when we get that, that's the only thing that's outstanding.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on Commissioner Martin's asking about the number of children. You have 7 of your own, correct?
Yeah.
What are the ages of your children?
The oldest is 15. She's going into 10th grade. And then the youngest is the 1-year-old. I have a 12-year-old. I have a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 1-year-old.
So am I understanding this correctly, that the 12, the number 12, that does not include your 7?
Right. We're allowed to have 12 above our old. We're allowed to have 12 unrelated children, plus whichever related children are in the home, which they're not going to be home.
Also, last week you indicated that you have 2 bathrooms in the home and that the one upstairs, your upstairs will not be used. The main floor will be where all of these children will be. How can 12 children have access to one bathroom?
He said earlier that the state rules allow the other bathrooms in the house to be used, but they're not required by code. So they're compliant with the rules, essentially.
Can I just add, we do have, we will have processes in state and put in place where there shouldn't be a major backup, which I explained last time. When the children are younger, they anyways need reminders for the bathroom. So we're going to do an official bathroom time, which will take all the children once or twice a day, just by us reminding them. If there is a backup, we are legally allowed to use the upstairs bathroom, but I'm not anticipating that will be necessarily, it won't really be necessary often.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Look, point of clarification to the planning department. They're very specific on their hours, their desired hours of operation, but are they committing and locking themselves into a site plan that would limit a change in the future?
The proposed recommended resolution does include that as a condition, since that they have repeatedly stated on the record it's 8:30 to 2. The commission can retain that, or they can strike it if they don't want to be that restricted. Obviously our recommendation is a recommendation.
Okay.
You're required to modify it. You're allowed to modify it if
Okay.
you like. But right now I have included it as a condition in the draft, the recommended resolution, because they've strongly stated and made, I think, good reasons why they would likely be following those hours.
Yeah, just so you understand, from a business point of view, I understand your hours, but you may be limiting yourself because that is what's going to get approved. And if you decide to open at 7 in the morning, for instance, you're going to have to come back and go through this whole process again. So if you want to consider stretching your hours, for the record, you don't have to you can't operate your business outside of the hours, you say?
For the immediate future, my children don't leave the house until after 8:30, and then I have preschool children, which I need to pick up, which finish, at the 2 o'clock.
Yeah, but
It's your choice. Just
Right. I want to take the lead, and I appreciate you leading us on this path. And that, yes, I would like, if possible, if we can seek for approval without the hourly restrictions. I don't know if everybody's open to that. Like, can we do a vote twice?
I think you got to have some kind of restriction,
Right,
because if
okay,
you
so
don't,
if
there's
there's
24
the
hours
city,
a day.
all right, the city has a restriction, I think, that you can't drop off before 6 a.m. and you can't pick up after 10 p.m. I believe that that's actually in the packet that I signed when I filled out my application form. So it's not legal to be a 24-hour-a-day operation. So there is a restriction. We don't anticipate using it, but like you said, I'd rather not have to rehash this should a use case come up.
the other thing you have to bear in mind is, with all due respect, your 1-year-old is in 3 or 4 years going to be in school. You might want to make your hours longer. Do you want to come back here in 4 years and go? No.
Right,
So
right.
that's why, add the hours now.
Right, exactly. So I'm taking you up on that. I appreciate the recommendation, because we don't really know this process. I appreciate the questions.
Mr. Nadev is correct. The ordinance does actually, in law, limit it to, they cannot operate between the hours of 10 PM and 6 AM. So the earliest drop-off would be 6. The latest it could run would be 10 if you left it to just what the ordinance has written.
And all we're saying is that you have 8:30. You can't start at 8 o'clock. So go from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We don't mind. But you don't have to come back if you change the time. If you tell your clients that 8:30 is the start, and if they come at 6:55, they can still come in, but you don't have to change the hours with us. You set hours for us so that you're within that time frame. That's all. You tell your clients the hours that you have, they're 8:30 to 2, and that's between you and your clients. We don't have to get involved with that if you go from 7:30 or 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. You're covered. That's all we're saying, to cover yourself.
We won't tell.
Right. Right. We don't want anybody coming too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can call it 7:30 to 6, that way we can accommodate the typical workday of 8 to 5:30.
Because if you're successful down the road, and we hope you are, you're going to want to maybe make it different hours in the day.
Or you have the exceptions available if something happens.
And I appreciate the letter you put together with your whole business plan and the what and the why. I think the comments helped you formalize your presentation. It's much smoother today. You've answered all the questions. Your house is one of the better scenarios because you're allowed to have a basement daycare, which you're not proposing. You're proposing main level of your house. You have extra space above and beyond what the state requires. You have the bonus of a park in addition to enough land on your own property. You've checked every box to the positive level in my, looking at the rules, you exceed everything. So I think this is it's a good setup for a daycare. There's obviously, from the amount of support that we've seen here tonight, there's a huge need for it, and we normally only see negative comments at these kind of meetings. It's refreshing to see positive comments, and very positive comments, actually. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I like your idea of, I believe you said 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. as your proposed hours, and we can modify that with the recommendation. Commission, any other comments?
No.
Okay, so looking for the planner's recommendation with the change in hours that they've arrived at.
All right, Ms. Schuren, this is the planning recommendation. The planning department recommends favorable recommendation of the special use request by Joseph and Deborah Nadev to establish a group childcare home on property located at 24346 Pierce, parcel 2425-251-001, City of Southfield, Oakland County, State of Michigan, for the following reasons and conditions. The residential character of the area shall be maintained is number 1. Number 2, the subject property is so located as to not hinder the natural and presumed residential development of the area, nor negatively impact existing woodlands or wetlands, as defined in the city's adopted woodlands and wetlands map and ordinance of Article 4, general provisions. 3, the subject property will act as a buffer or transition area between a residential development and non-residential area, which actually is just not relevant in this case. 4, the location, size, intensity, and periods of operation of any such proposed use must be designed to eliminate any possible nuisance likely to emanate therefrom, which might be adverse to occupants of any other nearby permitted uses. 5, proposed use must be in accord with the spirit and purpose of this chapter and not be inconsistent with or contrary to the objectives sought to be accomplished by this chapter and principles of sound planning. The proposed uses of such character and vehicular traffic generated will not have an adverse effect or be detrimental to the surrounding land uses or adjacent thoroughfares. 7, the proposed use is of such character and intensity and arranged so as to eliminate any adverse effects resulting from noise, dust, dirt, glare, odor, or fumes. 8, the proposed use or change of use will not be adverse to the promotion of health, safety, and welfare of the community. 9, the approval is based on the documents, facts, representations, and stipulations submitted with the application and placed on the record during the public hearing by the petitioner and their representatives. 10, the conditions. A, continuous compliance with all applicable ordinance, codes, laws, statutes. The petitioner must perform all work under plans, permits, and final inspections approved by the city of Southfield. And B, hours of operations 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion.
To the chair, I'd like to accept the recommendation of the planning committee for PSLU 23-0009.
Second.
Okay, we've got a favorable recommendation by Commissioner Goodwin-Dye and a second by Commissioner Martin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, we have 5 yes and 1 against. Favorable recommendation to proceed to the city council meeting. Thank you. Good luck. Okay, next. And you can follow up with the planning department on when that next meeting is and any additional information. Next, we have the minutes.
Yes, the minutes, we've got the minutes of the June meetings and the February 26, 2020 meeting for approval.
Any additional discussion on the minutes, or we're looking for a motion?
To the chair.
Yes.
I believe the minutes that we have had the corrections in that.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to motion favorable approval of the June 27th study meet, June 7th, 2023 study meeting, and the June 28th regular meeting. And the
Correction.
minutes of the February 26th, 2020 regular meeting. Transcript provided. Excuse us. Sir, could you speak in the hall? We're still conducting the meeting here, and you're interrupting us.
No.
There is another public comment portion just after this in a couple of minutes. Yep.
Yeah. And as I was saying, the February 26, 2020 regular meeting transcript that's prepared by Channel 15 recording.
Commissioner Willis, did you have a?
No, I think I thought he was going down a different path when he started that, but no comment.
Support.
Okay, we've got a favorable recommendation for approval by Commissioner Martin, supported by Commissioner Goodwin-Dye. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are passed. Now we have a public comment portion of the meeting. Open the public comment, and any person wishing to speak has 3 minutes. And state your name and address for the record, even though you look very familiar.
Joseph Nadiv, 24346 Pierce Street. One of the things that the Planning Commission has been trying to tackle, I think, over the past several years has been repaving streets and redoing sewer lines in my neighborhood. One of the streets that's in terrible, terrible disrepair is Pierce Street, my block from Stratford Drive until Mount Vernon. It's almost so bad you need an ATV to get down the block. It was probably worse than a street in downtown Baghdad. So is there anything that's being done from the Planning Commission standpoint in order to try to improve that road, even if it's not going to be a long-term solution, even just throwing down a layer of blacktop or something? I mean, there's probably less than 80% of the original pavement left on that road.
I don't know. Does the planning department have any information on that, or could we take that under advisement?
Those projects really, they only come before you guys when you're doing the capital improvement program approval. Then the council goes out and does the actual final approval of that. So it's more under the city council than it is the planning commission. For people to I know they're always repaving and doing sewers in some part of the city. The engineering department could answer you as to what the actual schedule is for your street. So if you call the engineering department and ask for someone there, I know the city engineer is Lee Schultz, but anyone in the engineering department could probably tell you what is scheduled for this year and what is scheduled probably for next year already.
Right, it's not on the schedule. And I've called repeatedly since I've lived in this house for 5 years, and they keep saying it's not on the schedule.
Yeah, that's more of a matter for the city council.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comments?
Just as a point of information, the Public Works Department and the city engineering need to be harassed about problems with streets like that. I have a problem in my subdivision with potholes that just keep growing and growing, and you gotta stay on top of them. I know that it hurts to have to keep complaining, but sometimes you just have to keep complaining to get anything done.
And if all of you call, just, this whole group just keeps calling, they'll get tired of talking to you.
Once everybody was here, we could get just a bunch of people all that live in the
Yeah.
neighborhood just to register a complaint. Like, it's really unfair.
If you have a public comment, could you please, again, do it from the podium and follow the process? So name, address for the record, you'll have your 3 minutes.
Joe Farmer, 16951 New Jersey Street. But just to build on what this gentleman was saying, Rutland has been redone. All of the streets from 10 Mile down to Stratford has been redone. Pierce is the one from Stratford to Mount Vernon is what has been omitted in those plans to upgrade the roads in that neighborhood. So it's very not only disappointing, but hard to understand how all of the other surrounding neighborhoods have been upgraded and that one portion of the road has been neglected. In addition to that, when you talk about Pennsylvania and those surrounding streets, in the last 5 years, the drainage there has been horrible. I don't know if it's due to some of the reconstruction in the area, but the water has backed up. They've changed the drainage patterns in the neighborhood, so now we have flooding in the streets, and that is unacceptable to the residents. We need help from our city planners and our city officials.
Thank you. Yeah, we also have a stormwater management department in the city associated with engineering, so.
Right, but it would be assistance if we had a reputable body like this to support our interest in getting those streets upgraded. So we would appreciate your support as well.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
comments.
you.
Any additional public comment? Nope, seeing no public, I'll close the public comment portion. Council items update.
There has not been a council meeting since your last meeting. They do have one next week where they'll be looking at the NTK Investments grow operation that was before you last month. And those zoning amendments that you looked at last month will be before them for action next Monday.
Okay. Miscellaneous items?
We just have just a list of the meetings for next month. At this point, I only have one project and some zoning amendments to bring you next month, so we might not need the second study meeting and the long-range study meeting. But if we could wait maybe till the second to make that as a final call, just to see if anything else gets in the door at the last minute. But it seems likely those two middle meetings won't be necessary. And I did have, just as an additional comment question, the printed out paper packets that I'm bringing to the meetings, do you want a copy, like, one of the things that's padding them is a copy of this presentation that's up on the screens. Do you need a copy of the presentations on the screens, it's on the screens, or do you just want the packets of the proposals?
Just the packet that you send the email
Okay.
is good. What
All right.
this,
So just don't give you a copy. 'Cause this is gonna be on the screens, I didn't know if I should make a copy of it.
If you usually have the latest site plans, if they submit them to you last minute, so I mean, as long as the current up-to-date drawings are available,
Yeah.
I think it's good digitally.
Because this making a copy of this presentation about doubles the size of the packet.
Yeah.
So that would save a bunch of paper if people aren't gonna use it. Because it's gonna be on the screens anyway, so just thought I'd clear that with you.
Fine with me.
So just so that I would understand,
The
you're
date.
proposing you bring in what part of the packet?
Well, basically, everything you've got except the presentation. So you have the agenda, the minutes, and the actual, like, packets about the projects, the project packets. It's
Okay.
the plans, their application, the recommendations would all be there.
Okay.
The only thing you wouldn't be getting is an actual just paper copy of this presentation that's on the screen.
Okay,
Because that's like another 30 pages.
The recommendations, honestly, they're so long when you have to read them out loud that they're long to read on a print, but at least there's
Yeah.
a chance of understanding it on print.
I'm trying to talk into them into tightening those up because all the conditions that reference the plans, I'm like, and normal ordinance requirements, in my background, if you reference only some of the normal ordinance requirements as conditions, well, they apply unless they're waived by the zoning board anyway.
Right.
So the question is, what happens with the ones you didn't mention? Do people think those don't apply? That's why I like that general, I added that language of continuous compliance with all applicable codes, ordinances, laws, and statutes, because that covers all of it. Like, you have to comply with anything that's not waived explicitly.
Right.
So I'm trying to talk the folks in the planning department into letting me tighten these up and shorten them a little bit, because they are a little extra.
For
But I have to get that past you guys and city council to make sure they're okay with it.
Okay.
So just one of those things I'm working on to try to tighten that up. One of the things I did was actually separate the conditions from just the items that are the standards. So the first part of that is the standards, and then the bottom where it says conditions is where I'm putting conditions. Just to kind of make it a little clearer if you're reading it. But I don't know that we even need to read every standard, maybe just the ones that are relevant to that particular case. But that's, I've inherited a process and I'm still working my way through it.
Right.
When you make those modifications, could you let us know your email, and then I could,
Yeah.
they say, all the help we can get.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like sometimes you're like, with this much verbiage, you're burying the lead. You're gonna lose what's important by putting in a lot of stuff that's not necessarily essential to the action,
Yes, exactly.
You can over communicate, I guess, is the problem. I'm used to kind of keep it tight and concise and on point. So I'm gonna see if I can move them in that direction.
Okay. So,
Save a tree.
any other comments from the commission? All right, seeing none. Meeting is adjourned at 7:36 p.m.